Welcome back to Benny's Custom Works, proudly supported by Valvoline and Sparesbox. Don't forget BCW5 on checkout. Today we're back on the Sigma, well kind of. We're going to be actually pulling down our Astron 2.6 today. So the plan is more or less to break the engine down and work out exactly what we're going to do with it. I don't really want to touch the bottom end, but I am going to pull the sump and the timing cover off because I do want to have a look at the true condition of the engine. Obviously we're also going to have to take things like the timing chain off. And once we've kind of got it all broken down and on the bench and how to look at it, I'm going to bring all the parts I've already got out for it and then work out exactly what we need to add to that to more or less piece it back together. I do already know that we need, definitely going to need a cam, a set of valve springs, and an engine gasket kit. I don't have any of those here, but I do already have a Rollmaster timing chain, an OEM style timing set, a new fuel pump, which is a mechanical style pump, some Arp Head Studs, and obviously we've got our twin Weber carby set up, so we may even bring that out and sort of have a look at it and muck around with it a bit. But hopefully going to be a bit of a interesting day. We get to pull the engine apart, plenty of nuts and bolts and nitty gritty type of stuff, so we'll dive on in. First thing we're going to do is drop the oil out of it. It may or may not have already been drained, but it's a good habit if you're going to pull an engine apart on a stand, drop the oil out of it first, because you can guarantee the second you pull the head off it and flip it over, there's going to be 5 litres of oil everywhere. I've done that heaps of times, so I'm not going to do it today. I'm going to drain the sump. Hey, our mate drained it. While we've got the oil draining, there wasn't actually a lot in it, but there's still a little bit coming out, so we're just going to drop that out. While that's draining, I'm just going to start attacking all the stuff that's on the long motor, so things like the heater hoses are on there. Probably pull off things like the alternator, the aircon, our inlet manifold, including the carby, because we're not actually going to be using any of this stuff at all. Once we've got all that off and away, we can have a look at things like the hard lines for the water or the heater line, the water pump itself, remove the exhaust manifold because we're also not going to be using that. These ignition leads are definitely beyond their use, so they're going to go in the bin. We're going to actually be using the 2-litre distributor in the 2.6 because then it is a true plug and play straight into the orange car. So yeah, basically going to be just tidying it up, removing everything off of it and assessing exactly what parts we need. So we'll hopefully by the end of the day also be able to send the cylinder head off to get machined. We may send them the valve springs as well, depending on what the lead time is going to be on those springs. If not, we can fit them here. But yeah, depending on the lead time of that sort of stuff, we may or may not end up fitting the springs as part of a later video. So we'll keep stripping away. Son of a we've got the engine torn down to basically a rotating assembly in the short block and our bare cylinder head with valves in it. We've basically have a bit of a good look at it. There's nothing that's really standing out to say that there's any issues. There's zero metal in the sump. There's no real wear on the camshaft. The rockers all look good. The valves are all still sealing. There's no excessive oil in the combustion chamber. It's to the point where I could have just chucked it in, to be perfectly honest. But I didn't want to go through all that effort and work and put it in and then 2 months later have a problem. So basically we're going to be, we're not going to touch the bottom end. I just don't think it's necessary, being that it's going to just be an NA engine, pretty well low stress. I think that'll basically just get a bit of a clean up, to clean the block faces, give it a bit of an external wash, tidy all that side of it up, and pretty much sit in the corner till the cylinder head comes back. So what we are going to do with the head is new valve springs and just a service, so they'll skim it. I'll try and get a little bit off of it to bump the comp up as well. And the biggest change we're going to make is we're going to put a tie grind camshaft in it. So they're actually going to spec the grind. I don't know a ton about camshafts, so I'd prefer to have an expert who's been doing it literally for years spec it and just have it right off the bat. It's never going to be a race car. It's just more of a fun street car, and have a little bit of a chop at idle would be pretty cool. But I do also want to make it so that it's still fun to drive and still usable. So I don't want to put a massive cam in it that's useless until 5,000 RPM or something like that. So yeah, those guys have kind of been given free rein on picking the spec of the cam, but then that'll allow us to hopefully have a better result at the end, rather than me just catalog, pick some random part number and off we go. But now that we've kind of got to where we're at, we're going to actually pull out all the new stuff that I've already bought for this setup and actually run through it and go through it all together and work out, as I said before, what parts we need to buy. I know obviously we need the cam, the valve springs and a VRS kit. The timing kit, I believe, comes with a timing case gasket, so we may also just need a sump gasket. I wasn't sure if this engine was going to use an actual sump gasket or if it just had grey sealer. So we'll pretty much pack this area away and get all the new stuff out and have a bit of a look at it and froth over the goodness. Well, I've dug through a bit of an Aladdin's cave as far as all the parts that I've been stockpiling for this thing. Because the Sigma's actually been going for quite a while on the channel, I have started to build up quite a bit of a back catalogue of bits to put into it. Straight off the bat, we're going to go for a twin Weber carby setup. So we've got the old, this is actually a second-hand Redline manifold that I had vapor blasted. So it's basically stripped the aluminium back and almost given it like a semi-polish finish. We've got a pretty good linkage kit that actually came with the carbies from Recarb, which is a company in Queensland. So they do a kit that has a hex bar in it, which means basically that none of the linkages, once they're set up, will slip. They also actually supplied us with the carbies, as I already mentioned, and they've already given us some base jet settings so that they're not just random jet settings from Weber. These are Spanish Webers, and I know these things cop a bit of a bad press online, but Recarb actually go through all of these Webers before they send them out, and they said that 90% of the issues with these carbies are actually based on assembly, not based on casting issues. So they go right through them and check them over, and as I already mentioned, they actually jet them to suit your requirements before they ship them out. So pretty nice looking little setup, and yeah, should service our needs pretty well. So that'll definitely get us sorted. Going with the classic Arp Head Studs. These things are pretty much in everything that we built ever. Most cars I've put together have got Arp studs in them. So these, funnily enough, a lot of this stuff actually popped up pretty cheaply on Facebook Marketplace. So grabbed these, and then also grabbed a full timing kit. So these engines obviously are timing chain, but in the timing kit you basically get all your tensioners, your idlers, all your sort of timing case gaskets, all the chain guides themselves, and then it comes with 2 timing chains as well. So you've got your main chain and then obviously your balance shaft chain. So that's a pretty good kit that comes together. I did also actually pick up a Rollmaster kit which comes with a heavy duty timing chain though. So I think I'm going to use parts from this kit, and then I've also actually got a 4G race design adjustable cam gear so that we can dial the cam in if we want to. I think we'll try and do it again. I had a bit of a assistance from Ian, I guess, at some point with a project before, and he's a bit more of a wizard with the whole dialing of cams in than me, but we'll get it sorted. We'll give it a crack. And yeah, pretty much the only other thing we've got to put on it, which is a bit of an old school throwback, is a Gilmore Drive Kit. So anyone that's not really familiar with older carby cars or older 80s and 90s and 70s and even 60s cars, all the sort of Pro Street era, everyone was running these gear type belts, primarily used on supercharged cars, but a lot of NA cars copped them as well. They are used primarily for the noise, I believe. They do give a bit of a supercharger whine, but they also, because they're a tooth belt, they don't really ever slip. As long as they're tensioned correctly, they're not going to slip. So that's a nice little addition too, and something that's pretty period correct to this sort of build. So I wanted to add sort of something else that's era specific. So we are trying to kind of keep this as a bit of an 80s vibe of a build. So a lot of this stuff would have been available. Well, I think everything would have been available at the time, probably save for the Arp Head Studs. So it's yeah, pretty cool to keep it period specific. And the very last thing that I got is another bit of a marketplace find, which is just a mechanical type fuel pump that the carby guys actually specifically said to run the factory style fuel pump. So this should pretty much bolt straight up to the head and it'll run off the cam, and means we can have pretty reliable fuel pressure. And the biggest issue that they said they see with the Webbers is that people run too much fuel pressure. So everyone kind of goes, oh, I've got twin carbies or whatever, and I'm going to need a lot more fuel pressure. And they said it's actually quite the opposite, and people need to more or less stick to the OEM style of fuel pump. So we'll probably throw this one on at some point as well. But that's kind of giving you guys a bit of an idea of the direction and the mindset of the build. So hopefully it gives you guys a bit more of an understanding. If you got any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. I do always read and try to reply to as many of those as I can. Obviously when it's flat out, it's hard to try and get back to everyone, but I do appreciate and do read all the comments that go in. Any suggestions otherwise, not necessary with this build, please leave them in the comments as well. Anything you want to know about the channel, put it down there. We'll leave a link in the description to merch too. We've got some BCW merch still on the go, so if you are keen for that, please check it out. We're going to wrap it up here, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.